Good morning and welcome to this week's webinar Wednesday. Here we are on the 3rd morning, June. So this week it's with me, Keith Etherington, and
June Dunlop.
yeah. So Alistair's on his holidays again this week, isn't he? So
yeah.
So it's us two and our guests today. We've got our guests joining slightly later, about 10 past 11, not 10 past 10.
10 past 11 even, yeah.
Yeah. I know the clocks have gone forward, so
confusing.
Yeah, and this week we're going to be joined by Karen Procheck and Richard Payne, who are two parents who've been involved in the Partners in Policymaking program over the last few years. Yeah, hopefully that's not one of them phoning me up. I'll turn my phone off. So, how are you doing this week, June?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. So, the weather's not been so brilliant.
No.
Yeah, it's a bit brighter today. Got my vaccination yesterday as well, so.
Yeah, I forgot to ask you, are you feeling okay after that?
Yeah, my arm is a wee bit sore, but apart from that, it's been fine.
Yeah, good. I think most people have been saying that, haven't they? They get their arms a wee bit sore, and then everybody experiences is sort of personal to themselves, isn't it? So some people have been having side effects, other people haven't. But that's
I think it's kind of individual. I think all in all, though, people seem to be not suffering too badly with any kind of symptoms afterwards. So which is good.
Yeah, you didn't get a notification of when your second one will be, did you?
No, they just told me 12 weeks. I'll hear in 12 weeks' time when I have to go back to my second one. So.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. Okay, so if anybody is watching today as a live stream and haven't been before, then you can make comments in the comments section in the top, which should be in the top right-hand corner of your screen, or you can ask any questions to us, which should be in the top right-hand corner of your screen. So if there's anything like that you want to do, then please feel free to do that. There we are. There's any comments, any questions, please feel free to do that. So I'm looking forward to the weather getting a bit nicer as well, because I don't know whether you saw, but it was like the hottest day.
Yeah, yesterday was it down south?
Yeah, since 1960 something.
Not up here, it wasn't.
No, it didn't feel like that. No, it didn't, did it? So yeah, and I was just talking to you before we came on air, wasn't I, about somebody who phoned me last night, Katrina, who we know in Oban, who's saying that they'd had lots of flooding on Monday during the day. So
yeah, I think we've had a lot of wind and rain. Well, yesterday's been not too bad in today, but fingers crossed, especially now that they're kind of relaxing things a wee bit.
Yeah,
we'll be able to get out and about a bit more and some nice weather.
Yeah, doesn't really feel like anything has relaxed just yet, does it? I'm not. And again, like, what have we got coming up? We've got the removal of the stay-at-home restrictions to the stay local guidance, haven't we, from this weekend, really?
Yeah, and then up to 6 people can meet as well outside.
Yeah. Thing is outside, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah, but you can still have people in your garden, so that's a bonus if you get the weather. Now you can at least have some friends in the back garden, or just still keep your socially distancing and that's why hairdressers. I think everybody's desperate to get their hair cut. I know you were talking about that the other day, Keith, but we'll get the hairdressers there be opening soon as well, and small steps, but positive steps. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it does feel like things are moving. Finally, it does, probably, doesn't it? Feels like things are beginning to move in the right direction, and people are beginning to look forward a bit. I was looking something up just before we came on air about a funding stream called Adapt and Thrive, which is about organisations building back to redevelop their supports and services as we come out of the pandemic. So that looked quite interesting too. Yeah. So what have you been doing this week, Jim?
Not been too bad. I was on annual leave on Monday, but like we said, the weather wasn't too good, so I couldn't really do much. I was hoping to get out in the garden, but didn't do that. So you come back from your annual leave, you know what it's like. You're trying to catch up with everything work-wise. But no, it's been quite a busy, productive week so far.
That's good. That's good. It feels to me like there's quite a lot of people who are on holiday. Quite a lot of people who are either taking holiday or having the last of their holiday for this year.
I think that's what it is, isn't it? It's that getting to the end of the year and starting the new financial year. So everybody's trying to use up holidays, because I think a lot of people I've been speaking on, even sending out emails, I'm getting loads of bounce backs and they're saying people are on annual leave. So I think you're right.
Yeah, definitely for me, that's felt a bit like that this week. So it's actually felt a bit more chilled this week in terms of not having to race from one Zoom meeting to the next, because there's less people around. And as I was saying earlier there, Alistair's off this week.
Yeah. Does he get any exciting plans? Or?
Have I got any exciting plans for the weekend?
No, Alistair has not been saying what he was going to do his time off.
I'm not sure about exciting plans.
Well, it's a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Yeah, what I was going to say was, because Alistair's off, I'm doing the Feel Good Friday this week. So on Friday, so we're still going ahead with the Feel Good Friday, which Alistair normally hosts, which is that opportunity for anyone to come along for what's really a social chat on a Friday at lunchtime at 1 p.m. But this week, it's a very special one.
Easter.
Easter, yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, timing's everything, isn't it?
Feel Good Friday.
That's it. It's a special one because it's Feel Good Friday, Good Friday. It's like, and I'm doing it from New York, or not. New York. Yeah, I'm doing it from here.
You're showing off.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm doing it from up here. We'll be doing it from up here in the attic, the normal space, nice bland background. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So that's on Friday this week, and here's Michael saying hello to us, and we're also doing on Friday our regular Statewide Scotland music session on Friday evening, which is at 9 p.m. If anybody hasn't been to that before, that's at 9 p.m. on Friday evening. It's broadcast, as is this live stream, through In Control Scotland's Facebook, YouTube, but Statewide Scotland's also broadcast through the Statewide Scotland Facebook and through the Citizen Network TV channel. So all sorts of different places that you can access the different live streams that we are doing. So, okay, and I'm going to be off on Monday, so that's, yeah. I'll find.
Anything planned?
Yeah. I'll find it. Well, we'll see. Yeah. Find some river to walk along and find a different coffee to have. That's what I'll do. That'll be the plans. So that's something to look forward to.
Something different.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, right. Shall we invite our guests on, June?
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, okay. Hey, welcome.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, can you hear us okay?
Yes. Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Excellent. Some weeks it works and some weeks we get echo and some weeks...
That's technology for you, though.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. It is. Okay, so what we're going to ask you to do, just first of all, we'll take it in turns and we'll ask you to do things. So we'll ask you questions and we'll just take it in turns as we go around. So Karen, do you just want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, I'm Karen Procek. I am mum to Logan and Rory, married to Chris, and I live in Bonnybridge.
Mm-hmm. And Karen, can you remind me when did you do Partners in Policymaking? What year did you do Partners in Policymaking?
Oh gosh, I meant to check this and I totally forgot. I think I am the 2017 cohort, but I might not be.
I think you're right. I think you were, Karen. 16, 17, is it not? You were, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. And Richard, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Richard Payne. I live in Linlithgow, and I've got an nearly 18-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. And I was part of the group that got halfway through Partners starting in 2019, and then got to about February, and COVID hit.
Yeah, I know. When I was posting something about this on Facebook, I didn't know how to describe you because I couldn't describe you as a Partners graduate. so I just said that you were both people who'd been participants. Whereas obviously I could describe Karen as a Partners graduate, but hopefully we'll be able to reconvene at some point. And yeah, excellent, good. So we usually just start off by asking you how things have been really over the last. I mean, every time. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Karen, do you want to just tell us how things have been? What's the impact of all this been on you and your family, and the things that you can do and the things that you haven't been able to do? And
yeah, I mean, gosh, last March, just life changed dramatically. I think it is interesting though, because I think I do wonder if like families like ours were maybe a bit more equipped to kind of deal with services stopping and not having access to a lot of things, because that's kind of our life a lot of the time. So when we went into lockdown, it was just madness at first. Nobody really knew what it meant. There was maybe a wee bit of an excitement about it, that you didn't, well, the boys didn't need to go to school, and I was put on furlough. So I think those initial days, it just felt quite overwhelming. There was a feeling that we were all in this together, because it was all new for everybody. And there was a lot like goodwill online, you know, people were sharing resources and videos and all of that. And then over a time, I think that kind of then just became a bit overwhelming, because suddenly overnight I became a teacher, and I'm not a teacher, you know, so you were just kind of trying to wade through all this information and work out what was applicable. I think the schools got caught out, you know, it took them by surprise, and I think in their best wishes to try and be helpful for families, they just kept sharing all these resources. And I was like, does that mean I need to do all the things that they share, you know? So you had the guilt already, and then I felt quite overwhelmed. So it took a bit of time for me to feel that I found my way through this. That I was kind of doing a bit of the educating, but mostly just keeping my family safe. And I think once I had a bit of a talking with myself and said, you're not a teacher, you know, it's not your responsibility. You just need to do what you can do. So it definitely took us a few weeks just to kind of find our path and just feel comfortable with that. But I think it's been different. The two lockdowns have been different. Lockdown 1 versus lockdown number 2, I think, have been quite different.
Yeah. I think lots of people found the second one harder, haven't they? Just because there was less of a sense that we were going to be out of it soon, and not the first one there was all that, you know, you didn't really know what was. Yeah, I think it's really important as well, that, isn't it, that idea that yeah, lots of people have said about, you know, I'm not a teacher, and I didn't know what to, and I thought I needed to do that, and then it's just really important that people are able to be kind to themselves about those sorts of things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, you just want to do the best that you can for your kids, for yourself. And then it just felt quite overwhelming. And in the end, I had to say to like Rory's school in particular, I said, stop sending me all this stuff that he clearly can't do. Do you know, like, it's just too much. So I think, you know, they certainly learned over time. And I think that's probably one of the big differences between lockdown 1 and lockdown 2, was that the schools were a lot more in control in lockdown 2, because they kind of got their stuff together, really, do you know, and it forced a lot of schools to go online, when a lot of schools had always kind of been quite wary of that. So, I mean, lockdown 2 with my eldest was a breeze, because he would just off he went, and he knew his task for the day. Whereas lockdown number 1, I was the teacher and I was giving him tasks, you know. So yeah, I think that time difference in between the 2 lockdowns gave school time to prepare, which I think helped some parents.
I think it's just about that kind of learning process, though, isn't it? Just as it, I mean, because but us all, even some of the work Keith and I have been doing since COVID's hit, you know, we've had to change that we work. We're doing a lot of stuff online and everything. And it was a big kind of impact, and we're thinking, how do we deal with this? But as you work through things, and it's that learning process, what works, what doesn't work. And I think what you're saying, Karen, was between the first lockdown and the second lockdown, it was that big difference. You know, there was that gap, I think, after the first lockdown, where everybody felt we're coming out of this, things are getting better, and then suddenly we're all whacked back into a second lockdown. So
Richard, do you want to tell us what it's been like for you and your family?
Well, lucky in that both my wife and my jobs have continued. We both work in the NHS, and we've been a mixture of home working and going in to work. But very lucky to financially, it's been fine. And I guess because of where we live, we can get outside fairly easily and enjoy going for walks locally. And my daughter hates school, and school has never been a good place for her. So actually, Molly, in some ways, has been absolutely delighted not to be at school. During lockdown, she was eventually diagnosed with autism, which came as no surprise to us. But took a long, it may have come as a surprise to some people, but that's maybe opened some doors in terms of transition, because she's in S6 at the moment. So she's been connecting a bit with a neuroatypical service, which happens to be in our town. It's early days, a bit anxious about how that's going, because they aren't that proactive in some ways, so they're happy for her to drop in and just do whatever she wants to do, but she could probably do with actually a bit more structure than that. So we're just still working with them working out. They seem prepared to be persistent, which is good. What else to say? The overall, not very impressed with schools, not very impressed with how they've pretty much not had much contact with Molly. I'd like to think they know her by now and know that they just need to take time, and maybe they haven't had that time, but they haven't taken a huge amount of time. So that's just an ongoing continuation of feeling like her school hasn't really got her and doesn't really have the time to get her, and that's just really sad. But she's now going back 1 or 2 days a week, and actually she's going back to cookery and drama, and she has a whole day of cookery and drama, which works really well for her, because it means she doesn't have to negotiate the busy social times of swapping lessons and lunch times. And it just focusing on one practical subject really works for her, and she actually comes home from school looking happy. And part of me goes, maybe some schools might learn a bit from this in terms of changing lesson every 40 minutes may work well for some kids, but for some it just, particularly the social side of all of that, is just overwhelming. A mixture, but overall grateful for what we've got, and grateful for having been partly involved in partners, and a few times over the year our group have met either as a large group or in small groups, and I have a link with 2 previous partners locally, and the 3 of us have met for Zoom calls probably once a month, and that's been just really helpful.
Okay, thanks. There's a couple of things just I was thinking from what you both said there. The first one I was wanting to explore a little bit was about that idea of services stopping, and just what that's just any thoughts about that. And then the second one was just to talk a bit more about the support that you can get from other people, really. So it's probably around about the same sorts of themes, really. But I know, Karen, you were saying there, to some extent, and again, this is something that other people have said, to some extent, in your situation, lockdown wasn't as big a change as it might have been for some other people. Just say a bit more about that, and then maybe talk a bit more about services stopping as well, and what all that.
Yeah, I just think for a lot of families and individuals that have disability in their life, we're just used to having to cope, to manage, to change and to adapt, and often that can be at really short notice. So I think we might be a bit more resilient. I don't know, that's probably a mass generalisation, but I think there was a lot that we probably coped better with. However, I am not denying the removal of services, and for me particularly, Rory's only 9, so school is much more than just his education. School's respite, for us as a family. So to have that removed and his weekend clubs all just taken away, what it meant was that we were a family of 4 stuck together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For Rory sounds similar to Molly. Rory suffers from quite bad separation anxiety, so he was loving it. He was loving the fact that all his important people were at home together. Whereas me, I was tearing my hair out, and I was saying, I need a break from you 3. I love you so much, but I just need space, and I never got that. It was so hard. Even trying to go for a bath, I'd have Rory telling me that I was to come back down the stairs, so that was really hard. And I think the impact on carers' mental health, I think, has been massive, and I think it's something that services just don't want to allude to, because if they allude to it, they'll realise just what a massive issue it is. So I think that during both lockdowns, the work that unpaid carers have done is just phenomenal. They've kept the country going, really, and they're just such an unsung, area of our population. So I think there was you kind of reflect back on lockdown, you're like that, like Rich was saying, we live in a really nice area, so we're so fortunate that we've got a garden we can go out and play in, or we could go for lots of nice local walks, but it was still so hard, and that's Rory being back at school for 2 weeks. And the difference in him is massive, for him and for me. I'm still walking about a bit lost. I'm still on furlough just now. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? This has been like a year of me just like full-time carer. So it's quite, it kind of messes my head sometimes. But yeah, nice parts, but not so nice parts. What I would say though is, I enjoyed the break from fighting the services. Normally it's always a constant battle. There's always emails to get written, or you're getting worked up about a meeting that you have to go to. Well, when everything stopped, all of that kind of stopped as well. And that was nice. To get that break from that was really quite nice. And then it started again at Christmas with the whole chat about schools going back, and you were like, yeah, those few months were a nice wee break, but here we go, back to normal. Services resume, so the fights begin again. So yeah, positives and negatives.
Yeah. What, Richard, got any thoughts about that, about services? Because I mean, lots of people's experience was obviously from very early in the first lockdown, or from the first lockdown, that some people's experience was things changed overnight, and then the services weren't there, or services were removed. Some people's experience was to get a bit more flexibility into the way that they could do things. Other people just had to obviously look more inwards and cope with the best way that they could. So, I mean, lots and lots of different experiences, but very, very challenging, obviously. So I'm throwing lots of things in there, Richard.
Yeah, I suppose I'm hearing Karen speaking. I think I realise how much harder it would have been for us if this had happened 10 years ago. Because to some extent, Molly is, although she's not independent at all, she's a lot more independent than she was 5 or 10 years ago. So actually, yeah, grateful that it happened when it did in some ways. And she doesn't get there aren't a huge amount of services she's plugged into, really. It's mainly school and a drama club, which I think kept going, or certainly fairly quickly got up and running online. So she's been able to continue to benefit from that. But it's private, we can afford to pay for that, and not everyone can. So again, it's not a statutory service, it's something additional. But that's been probably the main source of contact she's had outside the family. And I suppose in some ways there have been lovely parts of having both children around more often. I already knew how much Molly had taught me about what really is important in life. She has, over the years, has just taught me how much love she has for me has actually transformed me as a person, and to some extent that's continued and even maybe intensified over the last year. But yeah, there've been times where the rare times where there's been an hour where I've been the only person at home, and that's been lovely. And but I am pretty good at finding my own time. I have a group that I join Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is a chance just to sit together and online to have a kind of 20-minute sit, and then just check in with each other in terms of how we're doing. And I've done that 2 or 3 times a week for a year, and that's probably been pretty vital for me to have some kind of contact outside of the family.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. Just 20-minute sit together, because often people feel like they need to be doing something all the time, and sometimes it's actually just okay to be there, isn't it, with other people, as long as you know them and trust them, of course. But yeah.
And I think getting back to what Karen, when you were saying earlier, Karen, just about, some of the parents that we've spoke to, Keith, we know that was when those kind of services throughout the pandemic sort of disappeared. Parents were struggling, like you were saying, about having to become a teacher, having to do schoolwork, and then you're trying to deal with your other day-to-day things that you normally deal with as well, and not being able to get any break at all. It can be really hard on parents.
Yeah,
it's just been really challenging for people.
Absolutely. The highlight for me was like going to get the shopping each week, and then that wasn't exactly relaxing because you were like getting all your gear on and then coming back and you were washing all your messages, so it wasn't that relaxing. But that was your trip out the house, was to go and get the messages in.
Yeah. I'm a carer myself for my brother. I'm an unpaid carer and I'm working as well. I've been working, Keith and I have been working all through this. And I look forward to a Sunday. I go and do my week shopping on a Sunday. And I look forward to that. That's my day out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, what the thing is it's sort of just, obviously you think this often, but just reminds you about making the most of any small things that you can get to look forward to. Because for me, I used to, and I still do, love going out for coffee to different places. And obviously, when the coffee shops all closed down, you were still looking forward to going out for a takeaway coffee, and then you could get one at the door. So you can still look forward to. It's making the most, isn't it, of just any of those little things that we can during these times. Is there anything you were going to ask just now, June? I was thinking about vaccinations. Maybe we could just check with Karen and Richard how that's gone for them.
That, yeah.
Yeah.
I got mine yesterday.
How's
My
the
first
arm? You okay?
It's not bad. I was saying to Keith earlier, just a wee bit sore. Now they give you a wee list of symptoms that might happen, but no, it's absolutely fine. A wee bit of stiffness, so that kind of sorry stiffness, but apart from that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Have you had vaccinations?
Yeah, I've had my first one. I've actually had COVID.
Have
you
you?
know,
Oh dear.
Yeah, for all we kept ourselves in a wee bubble, and that's what I was raging about, was like we followed all the rules, we still ended up catching it. I blame my eldest son and he blames me, so I went to, it was when the hairdressers first opened back up, and my hairdresser messaged me saying that she had tested positive, and then a couple of days later, Logan's class was sent home. He sat next to a wee boy who tested positive. So my husband and I and Logan all tested positive, but we were fine. It was just like having a really heavy cold. But I can remember at the time, I was tweeting a lot about it, and I was saying that it was really good. So my local authority had this helpline number that would phone you up and say, do you need someone to go and get your shopping or pick up prescriptions? And I was saying that was amazing. But what I did say to them was that my husband and I were carers for my son. They were like, oh, well, that's nothing to do with us. And I was like, right, well, who is it to do with? Oh, I don't know. So it was something that just got me thinking about, well, not once did anybody ask me if I was well enough to continue looking after my boys, and Rory in particular, And I was like, who cares for the carers? And the answer was nobody. Now, if it had gotten to the point where I was absolutely poorly, then yes, we would have contacted social worker, whoever. But I'm sure there's plenty of families who might struggle to do that. It's hard asking for help, and it just made me think there's a massive gap there that nobody's asking about those caring responsibilities around, getting sick, getting poorly. So yeah, thankfully though, it was a really mild case that Chris and I had, and we were able to look after him, and that was fine. So we've both had our first vaccination now, and just thankful that kind of process is there and in place now.
I think that was something that's been highlighted through this, though, was unpaid carers, like you're saying, being forgotten. I mean, I think at one point they weren't even included within the priority list for the vaccinations, and it was only after a lot of kind of debating and a lot of people kind of raising the issue and that they finally did add them in to priority 6 at the time. It's just definitely been highlighted, but then how does that work going forward? If they learnt any lessons from that, will that change? There's been a lot of things I think the pandemic has raised, but it's how we raise that and keep it raising it going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what about you, Richard, in terms of vaccinations and what that's been like?
Well, because I work in the NHS, I've now had my second vaccination last Wednesday, and first one was fine. Second one was fine until Saturday night, but since Saturday night, I've had kind of flu-like symptoms that seem to have kicked in rather late. So I'm not sure if it is. I know I haven't got COVID because in the NHS we have tests that we do the day before we go into work. So I haven't got COVID, but I've either got a reaction to the vaccine or a delayed reaction, or I've got something else, I guess. And my dad is 93 and he's in a care home in Yorkshire. So although I'm not a direct carer for him in a way, he's very much been on my mind. We've been able to visit in July. We visited a couple of times, but apart from that, it's just been relying on calls with him And it's a bit of a challenge now because he's allowed one named visitor. So he had to kind of make a decision whether it would be me or one of my brothers or sister, who probably would only be able to visit about once a month, or one of his neighbours. So he's gone for one of his neighbours who he at least can see more often. And his care home's been in a way, they've been very good. They've been good in the sense that they locked down really early and they've locked down hard. And but it does mean it has been very hard to get visits to see him. Yeah, that's maybe about all I need to say right now.
Okay. Yeah. We're obviously now at a stage where people are thinking about, well, what's going to happen next, and what will it be? What will it feel like, and how are we going to get back to some sort of new normality, whatever that looks like? What have you been thinking about looking forward, really? And maybe also just simply what you're looking forward to most as well. That's probably quite a nice thing to think about. Karen, what have you been thinking about looking forward, and what you're looking forward to most?
Yeah, just the schools continuing. I'll greet if the schools go into lockdown again. These past 2 weeks have just been great. It really highlighted to me though, after Christmas, the inequity in provision. I was saying there was a difference between the first lockdown and the second lockdown. And I think the first lockdown, nobody really knew what everyone else around the country was kind of doing. And then we started hearing more about things that were happening somewhere, but not, where you were. And then when the second lockdown got announced, so Rory goes to one of the specialist schools for kids with profound learning difficulties, but other schools that had units in it, they were able to offer 2 or 3 days, yet our kids got nothing. So even nationally there was an inequity, but then locally there was that inequity as well. So when the schools went back, it was just a joy, and that's what we were saying. I was saying, I'm not interested in pubs and restaurants opening up because I never get to go out anyway. For me, it's always just been about the schools. Because if Rory's at school, then I can get a wee bit of me back. These past couple of weeks have been quite nice that I've been able just to go for walks, myself or me and my husband. And that's kind of just been our time. But in the next couple of weeks, I'll be going back to work. And I was put on furlough pretty soon, once lockdown 1 had been announced, and then I went back in August, and I was only back for a couple of months, and then back on furlough again. And I'm eternally grateful that my work are very supportive of my caring needs and responsibilities, and there was no questions, and I was just put back onto furlough. But I'm really nervous about going back to work, but excited about that as well. And I think, like I was saying, our world isn't that massive anyway, but it'll be nice to have the freedom to go and do more. I mean, we've certainly explored our local authority more than we've ever done before. Rory loves the trains and the trams, so I'm looking forward to getting back through to Glasgow Central Station. We just sit on platform number 1 all day watching the trains, or we hop the other way and we go to Edinburgh and we go in the trams. So I think just having the ability just to do that, I think that's going to be really nice, and that'll be our little sense of normality back. Oh, and the other thing, we're waiting on the Sea Line show opening up at Blair Drummond Safari Park. Obviously they can't because they can't get people in the room, so that's one of Rory's favourite things as well. So yeah, it's the small things for us. We're not so fussed about the pubs.
Well, that's an indoor show, is that one Sea Line show?
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. And there's no point going if we can't get into that, because you'll just be sat by the door all day.
Trying to get in, yeah. Okay. Richard, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm not that fussed about pubs and clubs reopening because, I probably won't be going to them. I look forward to seeing the group of partners actually. Whenever that happens, it may be a while off, but I can just imagine what that will be like going back. Well, I'm saying going back to Stirling, but wherever it happens, meeting up with everyone properly. That's probably in some ways the main thing I'm looking forward to. Maybe seeing my sister, who's moved up to near Berwick-on-Tweed from south of England. She moved up a few weeks ago. I say maybe seeing her. Yeah, that would be lovely to see her. We've got closer over the last 5 or 10 years than we ever have been. So, but yeah, there's a bit of me that, to be honest, there's a bit of me that's actually quite enjoyed not having to make as many choices and just knowing. And I think, was it Karen or someone else said earlier, we've kind of all been in this together. So there's a bit of me that's a little bit anxious about, getting busy again, and I'm not that keen to get too busy, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll take some adjustment, won't it? It'll take adjustments. It will, and to some extent, we don't actually know how we're going to feel when we get back out. I think when we get back out there doing some of the things that we've got used to not doing, and that we might need to do again in different ways. And yeah, June, what do you think?
Well, just the simple things, seeing family that I haven't seen. I mean, I've got my sister stays up in Aberdeenshire, so I've not seen her since last summer. Really looking forward to seeing her again. Just going out, and me, I do like the pubs, but just not pubs for drinking as much. I just like going for a nice meal and a wee drink with my friends, and that, just chilling out. Just looking forward to some of that.
Yeah. I think for me, it's. I mean, June knows this, but I'm going to be a grandparent this year, so, but I haven't been able to see any of my girls for a long time, obviously, because they're all in different places. We can't travel. So for me, I'm looking forward to that 26th of April bit where you can actually go out of your local area. So we can do that and begin to visit them again. So that'll be amazing. Certainly will. Yeah, okay. So our last question maybe today then would be, it's a nice really open question. So it's just anything else you want to tell us about, really, just really anything that you think that you've been thinking about and that you think it would be good to share with anybody who's watching this either now live or later. Because actually what happens is most people watch this not live, they watch it later on Facebook, or some people actually watch it on YouTube as well, because not everybody wants to go onto Facebook. So just really anything, the last things that you're thinking about in terms of pandemic and looking forward and the future, and things that you'd like to be different and better when we get back to a new normal. Because I don't know whether either of you have had a chance to see any of the things like the recommendations from the Independent Review of Social Care in Scotland, which are all quite hopeful things, but they're all things that are, at the moment, are only hopeful because they're not actually things that have happened. So maybe a little bit of a bit too many questions there, but just any last things that you want to share with us.
I think for me, it really made me think about my own mental health, because, well, A, I had time, and B, there was times when I was just freaking out about stuff. So I think this slower pace forced me to think about me and me as a person. So I acknowledge that I didn't really have the time to look after myself in the way I could. But then what could I do? And I have been able to do things, so like exercising more, things like that have become a bit of a focus. And the partners group, I think I did it once. I just checked in and I said, how is everybody? How are we all? And it's become a weekly thing now, and I've done it for nearly a year on the partners page, and it's quite nice because it just gives people a bit of a safe space, and it's there if people need it, and it's there if people don't. And I think, just bringing people together, because I think there's lots of conversations about mental health, but it's quite a big scary thing, and sometimes you don't want to be honest for fear of judgment or what that might mean. So I think just keeping it the profile raised is been quite important. But for me, I think it's made me think, no, I do need to slow down, and I can't take on every battle that needs to be fought. You know, I can only do what I can do. It's been, I mean, it has been lovely some nights just sitting down once the kids are finally in bed and watching the telly, because that never really used to happen, because there was always emails to write or complaints to do or something. So the slower pace has been nice in a lot of ways, and for me going forward, I need to keep hold of that, you know, and just, you know, recognising that, you know, my family is so important. I always knew that, but I think just lockdown has really just made me think, no, this is what's important for me. Family is important, so I'll do what I need to do to keep me and my family safe and well and good. You know, sometimes I think, especially if you've become a partner, you kind of feel that you're an advocate for everybody, and I think it's about saying you need to look after you need to look after your family before you can go saving the world. So just do what you can and keep yourself safe and well within that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, isn't it? Yeah, for all. Richard?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is thinking about the people I know who could benefit from partners. So hoping, I guess, that I can be part of keeping partners going, so that there are future graduate years. And the second thing is, I suppose, a slight concern about a political concern about the upcoming election in Scotland and the friction, I think, that will come, and the tension that will come as there's more and more pressure to have another independence referendum, and actually just how unpleasant that was to some extent last time round, probably for lots of people. And part of me just maybe wants to bury my head in the sand, or wants to go, let's not do that again for a while. So a slight concern about how that will pan out. And yet I suppose there is a bit of me that goes, well, I don't want to necessarily say what my view is, but just concerned that I found it tough last time round, and I think it won't be without challenges this time round. Yeah, those are the two things for me.
Okay. June?
I think just holding on to some of the positives for me going forward, just some of the stuff you were saying again, Karen. I'm one of the ones where I try to fit everything in a day, particularly when you were working, and I have felt a big benefit of not having to travel to work, because it can take me 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get back at night. So I was usually running about like a headless chicken, saying I need to fit all this into one day, and now I feel I'm not doing that. I'm giving myself that wee bit more time to do stuff, rather than, and I like my gardening. I've always liked gardening. I would be painting 2 sedges and fences in one day. Now I'm doing a wee bit at a time, because I know I can. You know, I don't need to rush. I don't need to. So it's taking some of that and taking that forward, keeping a hold of that, because I'm guilty of learning something that works for me and then just letting it slip again. So.
Yeah, that's interesting, and obviously, like, we want to build back better, don't we? We don't want to build back to what we had before. We want to build back to something better, and that includes things like people's working practices that might work better for them. So that's really interesting to think about. I was just going to say that this year, you probably both know that we haven't gone ahead with the plan to think we're going to try and do another partners program from this autumn, which would have normally been what we would have done. But the long-term plan would be ideally that we do another one from autumn 2022, and that this year we focus on things that we might be able to do for both partners graduates and obviously for the partners half graduates, whatever we call you, Richard, whatever we call you in your group, Richard, those people who were participants who didn't quite get to finish the program. So that's the focus this year. Focus this year will be on looking at things that we can do safely and well. So maybe some things eventually will be back to meeting up, and obviously there'll be some things that we can do online and in other ways as well. And the longer term plan for partners and policy making being that we think about having a new program from autumn 2022, which probably feels like a long time away, but isn't. So, so there we are. Okay, well, it's been lovely speaking to you today and having you on our webinar Wednesday. We've been doing this for a year, haven't we now, June?
Yeah, since the beginning of lockdown.
Certainly since April last year. Anyway, we've been doing webinar Wednesday.
Doesn't feel like a year though, does it?
And we're going to continue doing it till the end of June, and then we'll review it. That's the current position on webinar Wednesdays. We're going to keep going till the end of June, and then we'll see how things are then, and take a decision and see what happens. So thanks for joining us today. Thanks for your comments. Yeah.
Well, thanks for the invite. Yeah, lovely to see you, June and Keith, and lovely to meet you, Karen.
Yeah, you too.
And we'll be back here. We'll be back here on webinar Wednesday next Wednesday. And as I was saying earlier, if you want to join Feel Good Friday on Friday, contact us at info@address. And if you want to listen to any of the Statewide Scotland music session on Friday, you can get that on the Facebook and YouTube pages as well. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.